Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. This time we're going to be doing something different. Instead of a boxing film, we're going to be taking on the National Treasure series, as we said in our Creed review. This says National Treasure. It's a 2004 movie by Disney. Stars Nick Cage as he plays the character BFG, which is Benjamin Franklin Gates. With me, as always, my co-host James. James?
How you doing?
And joining us this time as a little extra bonus is Richard. Richard?
What's up, guys?
Anyways, let us start. The story begins. Before I say anything, let's just say this is one of Disney's more creative, exploration, character-driven. You wouldn't even know it was a Disney film until you're like, wait, this is Disney? It feels like a good old homage to the good old adventure movies of later. And kind of has a combination of everything. It has a great story, good music, good adventure sequences, puzzles. A whodunit situation, but not instead of whodunit, it's a where to next kind of situation, clues and leads up to a great story, great writing. Honestly, National Treasure 1 and 2 are pretty great films. But that's my synopsis for the film. What about you guys?
As a first-time seer of this film, I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's, like you said, it's very much an adventure film. There's a lot of clues and detective work in it, and riddles and stuff.
When the first time we watched it, I've seen the movie a handful of times growing up, but you said this was your first viewing. You said by the end of this, I'm not going to spoil what your score is just yet, but you gave a score that I was kind of amazed me. I was like, oh, really? Why is that? And you said one of the reasons that for the film being a little bit more dry for you was just its age, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a slow burn. It takes a while for it to get going, but when it got going, it was great. I loved it.
I kind of disagree with that. I mean, the movie feels very fast through it ends, and one of my problems with it is that once it goes fast, you're kind of expecting it to stay fast, but towards in the Act 3, it kind of slows down a little bit, and you're just like, why? Why did it slow down the pace that much towards the end when we're all waiting for the big final climax?
Well, the big final climax was the fact that everything is coming to its initial end, and now the payoff is the ramping up of your expectations as to what will they find, kind of thing. Because the whole thing is trying to find a treasure, so it kind of needs that calm before you reach the big climax of what they did. Because the climax and everything is the adventure that leads up to it. So that's why the pacing kind of feels like that. In most treasure-bound movies like Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones and the likes of Adventure to Journey to Center of Earth and stuff like that of the older films. Anyways, we're kind of like that with the adventure is the big ramping, the big part of it. It's the journey, not the destination necessarily. That being said, we'll do a big synopsis of this. We kind of just said what we needed to, but we're doing things a little different with this one. Our story begins in the past about a treasure linked to the Declaration of Independence, and it's we got a young Nicolas Cage, and he's being talked to by his grandfather. His dad comes up and basically kind of breaks it all up and goes, "Hey, none of this shit!" Right? What did you think of the opening of this, James?
I liked it. It kind of gives the groundwork of what the film is to become. The history. I love the history in this film. I really did.
Yeah, and it kind of leads.
It kind of has a feeling and this is weird because it didn't exist until later. But you know what is weird? It weirdly had this Assassin's Creed vibe of starting in the past and kind of building up to it. And it's weird because Assassin's Creed didn't exist in 2004, but it's pretty neat that.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's something that I now modernize. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, hey, it's kind of got some Assassin's Creed vibes at the beginning.
A lot of Illuminati stuff.
Yeah, Illuminati's. That's what I have on my notes here. The Freemasons is pretty much the movie's way of being the Illuminati because their symbols the triangle turned upside down with lights gleaming off the side of it. It's pretty much the Illuminati. I like the cut here's young Nicolas Cage character, and then we jump to present day. Every great exploration movie always seems to start off in like the snow or them like being on an expedition of some sort. And this case was just them following to their next thing. We were kind of introduced to Nicolas Cage and the crew, a bunch of people. And when we find an item, we're kind of introduced to Nicolas Cage's character being like, very smart. Even when they're met with a roadblock, he pieces it all together fairly quickly with the pipe piece, and he knows to like cut his finger and then kind of like use it like a blood dial and then print it out, and then it's a riddle, and then he like figures it all out in like the span of like
Batman.
one scene. He's very, and you said that a lot during the movie, was that he's kind of like Batman. He was deducting things really smartly, and it was just, if that's even a word. What do you think of his deduction, James and Richard?
I thought it was good. Like, he's a very educated, smart man, and
did well for the character.
He did very well.
This is probably Nicolas Cage's best work, though. Like,
yeah, gotta.
Some would
definitely
argue other things, but this is one of the ones I'll always remember him for.
Besides Batman,
the national treasure.
He was a very Batman-esque person. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. I'm trying to make things that his whip is. Once he figures it out, it kind of pisses off the investor, and then there's this this divide between the two characters, and he's like, "Oh well, I'm going to go steal the Declaration of Independence," and then he's like, "Oh, I can't be a part of that." And then they just kind of, there's a big rift that starts between the two, and there's already conflict right off the bat, and then the investor dude essentially becomes the bad guy. And then the ship blows up because they were in a ship. They found a ship when they found this. The Charlotte. They found it's like a frozen underwater under ice at this point ship that had the secret to where this was going. If you've seen the film, we kind of should have talked about that too.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, obviously. You're watching a review of movies from 2004. It's your fault at this point. It's like, right? But it goes from an adventure flick to a heist movie really fast, though, right off the bat. And I think that's what's great about this, is that there's a lot of different genres being mixed in this, and it's not just one, an adventure film. It's adventure, it's exploration, it's heist, it's drama, it's action, it's got a chase scene. It's got it all, man. It's a great film.
Yeah, it's not like a garbage hodgepodge either. It feels really
it's
well
not. It
done.
doesn't feel formulated where it's like, oh, now here has to be the thing. It kind of gradually happens with the story. It's really well written, is what I have to say. And even when it comes to their set pieces, like the part where they're chasing them down after getting the well, before we get to that part, the heist is pretty cool. The deduction, like the kind of like planning out the things, and like the different montages of seeing the good guys planning versus how the bad guys are doing it, and how it kind of like gets crossed, how the two like teams kind of collide
against time
at times, but it's a race against each other, and it's just
and like one step
well done
of the other.
Yeah. We get introduced to a girl character. She's kind of annoying throughout most of it, Miss Chase. She's
played by Diane.
She's a bit annoying. She's a bit annoying at first, but she works well into the chase sequence that happens afterwards. And it's great is her character gradually becomes like one of those like goes from annoying characters to being a pretty decent support character, where she's just one of the team by the end of the second act. And so you truly start to see her as part of the team and not the annoying character that they laid out. Again, a great indication that the writing is pretty good. You take a character that's annoying and then you have them grow and be a part of the team, and you start to like the character a little bit more. And they start to work together on stuff, and then you could see that she's kind of like his equal, and the movie doesn't do it in a forced, girl has to be smart kind of way. This is back when it's like, she's just another part. They're showing that she's part of the gang, and she's just as brilliant as
nerds.
Nicolas Cage's character, because they're both history buffs, and they're both able to deduct what's going on. But another part of the film that I really liked, I don't know if you guys, on your reviews here, I mentioned that the bad guys, the trail, are like hot on their trail throughout the entirety of the movie. They're kind of cleaning up after them or figuring it out after they figured it out. And it's like this game of cat and mouse where they kind of intertwine and, you hit that crossroad. Eventually, the FBI also gets involved, and it's kind of conflicts and things to kind of hurdles that our heroes have to deal with throughout the entirety of the film. I can't say enough good about the way the pacing of the movie and the arcs and everything. I think it's a really great film. I don't want to spoil the ending. I don't want to spoil anything else. If you're interested in the National Treasure, go check it out. It's on Disney Plus. So if you have Disney Plus, you can go ahead and check that out. You can check out the National Treasure 1 and 2. But I'm about ready to wrap it up. What do you guys say? If you have any other notes or anything that I didn't cross over on my list, James and Richard?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything, man. Like you said, it's well written and it's a really good film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard?
Yep.
No, nothing. You have any other extra notes or anything?
Nope.
All right, boys. I'm gonna call it. I'm giving it a. Personally, I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10. It's a great Nicolas Cage film. It's a great Disney film, and it's well written, and the treasure hunting and everything. And I love that stuff. I'm a sucker for adventure films and anything in the vein of Indiana Jones. I love it. So that's my film. I give it an 8. James, what are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 7. I thought it was a slow burn at first. It took me a while to get into it.
All right. 7. That's what I was saying. Is that he gave it like a 7. And I was like, oh, really? But I was curious as to why that is. Like, why a 7 out of thing? But I agree with you. For some people, it can be a slow burn, and that's it's a great. It's different views. So if you guys aren't into slow burns, this can be a bit slow at times for you. So that's James. James gave it a 7. I give it an 8. Richard, what are you giving it?
As a first-time watcher of this movie too, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. The pacing's so late changing. Wow. It's kind of like, really? I didn't like that, but other than that, the movie was amazing. The Batman-like detection, the heist felt so good. Like the planning paid off so well, and the action and the confusion and the twist was so good.
Yeah. Well, that's that. We gave it a pretty much. It's anywhere between a 7 and a 9 for most of us, and I gave it an 8, but yeah, National Treasure. If you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and take a gander, take a watch. If you're new to the channel, thanks again for tuning in. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps us out, and thank you all to our team at BrainDeadStudios for making this all possible. Thanks again. See you guys on the next BrainDeadStudios review.